In today's video, I'm going to show you my methods and techniques for doing an exposed waistband. This is the exterior of the garment, exposed waistband with the body of the brief here. And then this is the inside. And it's done with a cover stitch machine or a cover hem. This is a 3-thread. Now, the retail garment industry, they have a special machine where the elastic goes on a tension thing like this, and they put the fabric on here, and the presser foot and everything is all measured for exactly what it does, and it goes through so they can push it through really quickly. But on a home machine, it's a little bit different of a setup. The equipment I'm going to be using is just your home sewing machine, an open toe embroidery foot, and a small stack of post-it notes to help align. Now when I put my elastic in here, I'm going to be aligning it with the inner edge of the left part of the open toe embroidery foot, like this, so I'll know exactly where the elastic is when I put the fabric on top of it. Put your elastic in there. Then use your stack of post-it notes. Sticky side down here. And this, I use a stack about 1/8 of an inch thick, so I have a nice edge to run stuff against. Then you get your fabric. And what you want to make sure you have with your fabric is as straight an edge as possible. Then you can decide if you want to overlap it 1/4 inch or 3/8 of an inch. Now the nice thing about elastic, most elastics usually have a rib in here, even the knitted ones. This is a knitted. So you can align the fabric edge with one of these ribs. So I put my elastic in here, put my fabric. I'm doing about a 3/8 of an inch overlap. I'm going to lower my presser foot to hold it in place. For this first one, I'm going to be using a regular zigzag, because almost everybody has that on their machine. I'm going to do as wide as possible. Mine is a 6mm. And I'm going to go just under 2mm for the stitch length. Lower your presser foot, lower your needle. It's a bit of precision sewing, but this is about the only way to do a sewn-in exposed elastic waistband. And this would be the interior of the garment. This would be the exterior of the garment. Obviously, I'm using contrasting threads so you could see it. That's using a zigzag. Now, if your machine has some decorative stitches, you have a few more options. For this next one, we're going to try the honeycomb stitch. And let's do one skip stitch here. What you want to do with your decorative, if you're going to use a decorative stitch, this is the interior because we're sewing on the interior side. So this would be the top of your stitch on the interior of the garment. You need to make sure that the exterior of the stitch looks nice also. Again, this doesn't show up really well because it's a contrasting. Put your elastic back in. Switch over to your decorative stitch. And I'm going for 7 millimeters wide, as wide as this stitch will be on my machine, and just under 2 millimeters for the stitch length, so it's a little closer together. And I'm going to go again with about a 3/8 of an inch overlap. And I use a wooden golf tee to help allow my fabric to go through and lower my needle in. You want to make sure the fabric is as lined as possible. And that's the interior of the garment with the decorative stitch. And here's the exterior. And for this example, I'm going to be doing the honeycomb stitch. It's interior, exterior. Now I have my elastic here. This is a slightly different width than I used before, but I'm aligning it in here the same way I did earlier. With the bottom edge of the elastic against the inner edge of the presser foot here. I have my machine set up for the honeycomb stitch. I'm going to put my fabric in here and overlap it about 3/8 of an inch. Lower my needle in. And it's an elastic with a decorative stitch, so I'd recommend sewing a little slower. And this would be the interior of the garment. And this would be the exterior of the garment. I think the honeycomb gives as close to a retail look as possible. And using matching thread, you can't really tell that it's, when you're wearing it, that it's going to be any different than a retail garment. Here's the interior again. And here is the exterior.